All right, start in Samastitihi, standing pose. Balance out your weight between your feet, inside and outside, front and back. Draw your breath in through your nose. Slow, steady breath. Pumping the breath in from your belly. Inhale, reach your arms up to the ceiling, Urdhva Hastasana. Exhale, release your arms back down to your sides. Again, you're going to inhale, reach your arms up to the ceiling, press down through your heels. And this time, fold forward. Exhale, Uttanasana. Take your time to fold. Maybe you stop halfway. Another inhale, and then fold the rest of the way. On your next inhale, come all the way back up, Urdhva Hastasana, reaching your arms, pressing through your heels, and then let your arms relax back down to your side. Now again, inhale, reach your arms up to the ceiling. And as you exhale, fold forward, keeping the weight of your fold in the front ends of your feet, so the balls of your feet, not your heels. Step back with your feet one at a time into plank pose. Inhale. Knees down, exhale, Chaturanga Dandasana. Point your toes back, inhale, Bhujangasana, Cobra Pose. Downward Facing Dog, Adho Mukha Svanasana, exhale. Feel the length out from your fingertips up through your hips, and from your hips down through your toes even. So your heels could lift, knees could bend. But you're feeling and experiencing space in your spine and in your legs. And your breath as well. Smooth breath from your belly, in and up, in and out of your nose. Use your next inhale to step up into a forward bend, Uttanasana. Exhale into that fold. Use your core around your spine. Inhale out of that fold, reach your arms up. Use your back muscles, Urdhva Hastasana. Exhale, Samastitihi, standing pose. Now again, inhale, reach your arms, Urdhva. Press into the toes of your feet. Exhale, fold. Keep the weight up in the front ends of your feet, the toe box. Inhale to step back into plank pose. Open your chest. Chaturanga. Exhale. Upward Facing Dog. Inhale. Downward Facing Dog. Exhale. Press those arms forward. Lengthen your fingers. Lengthen your feet, the inner lines of your feet, lengthen and strengthen. The outer lines of your feet, lengthen and balance. Feel your sit bones lift, feel your thigh muscles engage. Another breath here, and then on your inhale, step or hop forward. Exhale, fold, Uttanasana. Rising all the way up, inhale, Urdhva Hastasana. Samastitihi, exhale, standing pose. All right, step back with your left foot or your right foot. You're actually just going to step apart with your feet, whichever direction you want to face. Move your mat if you need to. Open your arms. Feet are just about 4 feet apart. Turn your right toes to point forward. Turn your left heel to point back. Right hand to your right foot or shin. Trikonasana. Keep the right leg strong, squeezing your right thigh, pull the right kneecap up, and keep drilling your left heel into the ground. Lengthen away from your hips with your waist as you rotate your heart open to the ceiling. Come back up with your next inhale. Turn your toes to face the opposite direction. Your left toes turn out 90 degrees and your right heel turns back 45. Left foot to left hand or shin, and reach your right arm up to the ceiling. Open your ribs here. And again, keep driving down through the right heel and spreading out through your left toes. Squeeze your left thigh. Try to lengthen your left side out here. Inhale and exhale. All the way back up with your next inhale. Come to stand. Turn and face your feet to face all the way forward now. So you're going to come into a pyramid shape setup, but we're going to move into revolved triangle. So your left hand's going to come to the floor outside of your right foot, and your right heel is driving into the floor. Your right toes are spread out. Your left heel is driven down into the floor. Squeeze your right thigh and press your right hip up to the ceiling as you twist your triangle. Maybe you use a block on the outside of your right foot. Keep lengthening your torso so that your waist is long. Soft bend in your right knee, release your twist, and then inhale, come back up, right. Turn to face the other side. Left toes point back, right heel is really far behind you, so your right toes almost point straight forward. Hinge halfway like you're going to take pyramid, but then twist right hand to the floor outside of your left foot. Bend the left knee as much as you need to get your right hand to the floor. Eventually, you'll work on straightening the left leg. Your left arm stretches up to the ceiling, and again, you're really pushing down into the ball of your left foot and the heel of your left foot for balance, and pushing that left hip up to the ceiling. Feel length in your torso as you twist from your heart. And soften your neck to gaze wherever your neck is comfortable, turning. All right, nice little bend in the left knee then to come out of it, release the twist, and then inhale, pull yourself back upright. Turn on your feet, facing the side of your mat again, wide leg. Turn your right toes out, left heel back, bend your right knee, and separate your feet a little farther if your revolved triangle had your feet a little shorter. Open your arms out for Warrior Two. And we're going to move into side angles. So this is just a prep for Warrior Two. Make sure that your right shin is vertical, and then start to take your right hand down to the floor outside of your right foot. Stretch your left arm up overhead and press back with your left heel. You can look up and watch your left fingers point overhead. Straighten out that left arm so your left hand and left foot create a diagonal line. Keep your right knee bent and keep driving that right heel down into the floor as you inhale, come back up, right. Pause through Warrior Two just to get your balance. Open your arms, strengthen your legs, soften your gaze out over your right hand, and then we'll come up to stand, turn to face the second side. Left toes turn out, right heel, it pushes back. So you're driving that right heel back behind you. It falls back behind you. Get your left shin vertical. Again, here, take a moment in Warrior Two to feel the power in both legs equally. And then your left hand to the floor behind your left foot. Right arm up overhead. Press back with the right heel. Drop your left sit bone so that your left hip isn't popping out, and pull the left hip under as you turn your left knee open towards the left pinky toe. Try not to let this rotation happen in your hips. It's mostly in your upper back, your heart. As you inhale, when you come back up, that way you'll keep your shape of Warrior Two. You won't have to fix your hips. So your base, your foundation was steady as you inhaled into Warrior Two. Left shin stays vertical, right leg stays strong, and then as you inhale, straighten your left leg, and again, turn your toes to point to the edge of your mat. All right, turn your right toes out. We'll take high lunge here, and we're going to twist. So you're going to lean out over your right knee, hook your left arm on the outside of your right knee, and if you can, take your left hand down to the floor. Start to stretch your right arm overhead, and then if you can, turn your left heel down for Parivrit Parshvakonasana. So it's revolved side angle. Press down into your left hand, press overhead with your right hand, and if you're maintaining your high lunge, take prayer pose with your left heel lifted. Inhale to untwist, just a moment there, and then push down into your right foot to come back up to stand. Okay, turn to face the second side, left knee bends. You can start with your high lunge here, lift your right heel, get your balance, and then you're going to hover halfway out over your left leg. You're going to twist right elbow to the left thigh, and again, you could stay here in your prayer pose. You could also then start to slide that right hand down to the floor and press into the floor or block. And if you can turn your right heel down without letting your left hip lift too much, turn that right heel down. Left arm stretches out overhead. Press your left hip down. Press your left knee forward and drive back with your right heel. Again, twisting from the heart, not your hips. Inhale to come back up, untwist. You can lift that right heel at this point. Come back up to stand and turn and face back to the center. All right, go back over to the right side now. So spinning on your feet yet again. Right toes point to the top of your mat. Bend your right knee and your left heel is on the floor here at this point for Warrior 1. Virabhadrasana A. Reach your arms up to the ceiling. Feel the extension in your spine. Feel the extension in your left leg. Your left glutes are working. The left hamstrings are engaged. And then you're feeling the flexion in your front right hip, bending your right knee forward. We're going to move into Warrior 3. Come out over your right leg to hover. Your arms might want to come in at this point in time for balance. Lift your left leg and press down into your right foot. If you feel like your balance is wonky, maybe try dropping your left leg down a little bit and then maybe even reaching your left hand forward a little bit. Bend your right knee if you do feel like balance is starting to wobble, and that'll help catch your balance. You can always take your hands to the floor as well. Come back into Warrior 1. As you inhale, land back on your left heel and reach your arms back up, open your chest. Just a breath there. Turn and face the opposite side now. Left knee is going to bend. Left toes point to the back end of your mat. Virabhadrasana A, Warrior 1. Push the right heel back behind you. It's like your legs are stretching apart, but at the same time pulling your hips in and squeezing your core with your hips. Feel the extension in your low back, and you can feel your left leg preparing for Warrior 3 here because you're going to fly your warrior in a moment. So really get that left leg strong, but not to the point of exhaustion. So it's not overworking. All right, come up to that right toe, balance, and then start to shift off of your right toes into Warrior 3. And again, use your arms here for balance. So if the right hand stretches forward, if the right hand needs to come down, if you've got a block, you can put your right hand down on a block, and that'll help keep your head and your heel in the same line. Using your right glutes, feel your left hip drive back behind your left heel a little bit. And if you're wobbling, touch down, that's fine. Again, one hand can stay on the floor. Okay, come back into Warrior 1. Right heel down, bend your left knee. Inhale, reach your arms up to the ceiling. Press your left leg straight, and again, turn to face the side of your mat. Just regrouping here, checking in the center. All right, let's come back into Trikonasana triangle pose. Turn your right toes to point out, left heel falls back, right hand to your right foot or shin. We're going to come into Half Moon Ardha Chandrasana. Triangle is the prep for Half Moon. Left hand on the side of your body, left arm on the side of your body. Start to walk your right hand out to the top of your mat and past the top of your mat, and then lift your left hip up. Press through the inner big toe mound of your right foot and right heel. And then maybe your gaze turns up to the ceiling. You can lift your left leg higher, especially if your right hand's flat on the floor, so you create a straight diagonal line rather than a curved line. And if your right hand is on a block, you'll probably lower your right or your left leg lower. All right, step back down on your left foot for triangle pose. Regrouping here, and then inhale up to stand. Turn your toes. Right toes angle in sharp, and then left toes turn out. Left hand down to your left foot or shin for triangle pose. Just like we prepared for Warrior 1 or Warrior 3 with Warrior 1, you're preparing for Half Moon with triangle pose. So start to shift your weight forward onto your left hand and your left leg as you feel that left leg is strong enough to take the standing balance. Now start to lift your right hip up to the ceiling, lift your right leg up, and open your right ribs to the ceiling. Turn your left ribs under without letting your left toes turn in. And that might mean looking down to the floor for you. Okay, bend back down into this triangle pose, bend the left knee to land, and then re-straighten your left leg, Trikonasana. Again, just to balance, regroup. Once you feel both feet are balanced, inhale back up to stand through the center. Pyramid pose is next. Turn again to face the right. Right toes point forward. Left toes almost point forward. Hands come behind your back for prayer or grab opposite elbows or wrists. Lengthen out over your right leg and drive down through your feet. Again, feel those two lines of your feet, the inner line of your foot for strength, the outer line of your foot for balance. Lengthen both edges of your feet. And then squeeze both thigh muscles for thigh strength, leg strength, and stability. Inhale to lift back up using your back muscles. Keep your hands if you can. If you need a break, take them out, shake them out a little bit. Switch sides, turning on your feet. Inhale, and then exhale. Reset your prayer pose behind your back and fold. Folding, lengthening out, not folding, rounding down. So lengthen the length of your torso over the length of your leg. Try not to let your left hip lower and sink, so keep pushing into your left foot to maintain the height of your left hip. Inhale to come back up using your back muscles and your glutes, lifting back up. At this point, take your hands to your hips, Prasarita Padottanasana. Inhale and exhale, fold down between your legs. You can walk your hands back behind your feet, palms flat on the floor, elbows pointing straight back for Prasarita Padottanasana A. If you need to walk your feet farther apart here, that's very typical after moving out of pyramid pose, since that stance is usually shorter. But try not to roll your ankles out. Try to push down into the inner big toe mounds of your feet and stretch back through the inner heels of your feet. All right, coming out of this with a lift and an inhale, walk your hands to the top of your mat and step back, downward facing dog, Adho Mukha Svanasana. Couple breaths here just to feel the balancing and the grounding between your two hands and your 2 feet, and then lower your knees down to the floor. We're going to take Ustrasana. If you need a blanket to pad up your knees, you can grab a blanket or a pad. Separate your knees, take your hands back to your heels, lift your hips up to the ceiling, lift your chest up to the ceiling. Big inhale, round the backside of your body like a C shape. Using your neck muscles to keep control of your head so your head is not just flopping and dropping behind you. Press down into your knees and your shins, lengthen the fronts of your thighs up to the ceiling, and then lift the fronts of your hip bones up to the ceiling. Use your next inhale to pull up out of that, coming out of Ustrasana. And take your hands to the floor, tabletop, tuck your toes back under, and then lift your knees and walk your feet up to your hands, forward fold, Uttanasana. Hands can come back next to your feet. If you've got blocks, put blocks next to either foot so that you can play with this variation of Uttanasana, pressing your hands down into the floor, just like we did in Prasarita Padottanasana A, the wide leg forward fold. Bend your elbows and point your elbows towards the back of the room and round your spine. Imagine pulling your belly away from your thighs, forehead into your shins. Then with your next inhale, walk your hands forward, feet back. Exhale, downward facing dog, Adho Mukha Svanasana. We're going to come into plank pose, chaturanga. Exhale. Take your hands behind your back, interlace your fingers, lift your feet, Shalabhasana C, locust. C variation. Lift your thumbs off your sacrum, lift your chest, lift your throat, lift your chin. Use your glutes and your hamstrings to lift your legs. Use your thighs to straighten your legs. And then adding on here to Dhanurasana, bow pose. Grab your feet, press your feet into your hands to lift your chest even higher. Lift your chin, open your heart. Use your thighs to press your feet back, but also use your upper back muscles to pull your chest up off your belly. Next exhale, down to the floor. Inhale, press up through plank. Exhale, up and back, downward facing dog, Adho Mukha Svanasana. And take a few moments here to recover from the back bend, lengthening out your spine, lengthening out your breath. All right, we're going to come to seated so you can step through or you can jump through. We're going to set up for boat pose, Paripurna Navasana. Take your feet to the floor, balance on your sit bones, not your tailbone. Lift your chest. Press your heart up to the ceiling as you press your knees either to straight or keep your knees bent, but keep lifting your belly, keep lifting your chest, lifting your low back and lengthening out of your lumbar spine. And lower down into Ardha Navasana, half boat, coming to your sacrum, chin to chest, look to your toes. You could even take your hands behind your head if you'd like and help hold your head with your hands. All right, and then on your next inhale, up to seated, cross your ankles. Just take an easy seated pose, or Siddhasana if you can tuck your right toes into your calf and thigh muscles, enveloping your toes in that fold of your leg. Let your knee open out to the side. Sit back into the center of your sit bones. Lift your chest. Take your shoulders back over your hips. Ears over your shoulders. Keep your chin level to the floor so you can breathe. And then come back over to hands and knees. And sit in between your heels. Virasana pose. Hero pose. Okay, so you're sitting between your heels, toes pointing back, hands on your knees, and again, shoulders over your hips, ears over your shoulders, chin level with the floor. And if this is too intense for your knees, a block under your hips is nice. Also, just staying here for a few rounds of breath. You don't need to be here forever. We're going to move here in just a moment. All right, come over to hands and knees. Take your feet together and sit back over your feet for Baddha Konasana, bound angle. Draw your heels in as close to your groin as possible. Press your knees out and down towards the floor, and then lengthen over your toes. You're using your elbows to bend and pull your chest forward. You're not using your elbows to press your knees down to the floor. So if you feel like you need to just lift up and come out of that fold and resist the urge to push with your elbows, and just come up to a seated position where you could lengthen out your spine and feel that opening in your hips, and then exhale back into it if you'd like. But breathe from your belly into your back, expanding that breath across your back. Finish out the next exhale completely without rushing it, and then use your next inhale to lift your head back up over your hips into a seated position. Right, and then from here, straighten out your left leg and take your right foot up into a half lotus shape, so your right heel up into your left hip crease. And then pull your left heel up under your right thigh. And you can sit here in half lotus. Or you could take your left leg now and slide it up to your right hip on top of your right thigh. If full lotus Padmasana is not acceptable for your body, you could easily come back into that seated position, cross-legged, maybe even take fire log pose, or enjoy a half lotus where you can close your eyes down and just sit. Feel the weight of your body in your hips and your sit bones. Feel your low back lengthened, not overworking, and focus on your breath for just a moment. All right, and then we're going to move this into Matsyasana. So if you can keep your lotus shape, if you've got it, you can. One great option is simply to take your hands behind your body on the floor and lift your chest and open up, kind of like an upward tabletop or upward lotus. The next option is to roll all the way down to the floor, come onto your elbows, and then roll down to your sit bones. Take your knees back down towards the floor. Grab your feet with your hands. Once your head is on the floor, your torso is completely off the ground. Fish pose, Matsyasana. If lotus is not working, you could take cross ankles here, or you could take feet on the floor, knees bent. But try to really push your chest up to the ceiling using your back muscles and press down into the floor using the top of your head. If your head doesn't hit the floor, put a block under your head. This one might take some playing around with, so if you need to pause the video and work on that, please do. Use your inhale then to come out of Matsyasana, fish pose. Unwrap your legs if they're still in lotus. And then come back up to seated. All right, right foot to the inside of your left leg, Janu Shirshasana. Inhale to prepare, and then as you exhale, fold out over your left leg, pressing your right knee down to the floor. Let your right knee squeeze forward as well. So try to resist your right knee squeezing back or sagging back behind you. Try to feel experience the action of squeezing into your body from all directions. At the same time, your breath expands out from the center through all directions. Inhale to lift out of the right side, Janu Shirshasana. Straighten your right leg out. And then your left knee bends, left foot to the inside of your right thigh. Press your left knee down to the floor. And again, feel that force, that magnetic force of squeezing everything to the center, at the same time expanding outward from the center with your breath. Press out through that right foot, through the center of the right foot, the ball of your foot, center of your heel. Press out through those points. Finish a big, nice, easy, smooth, rounded breath before you use your next inhale then to lift back up with your back muscles, come up to seated. All right, Paschimottanasana, both legs straight. Press out through the center of both heels and the center of the ball of the foot, the big toe mound, to the second toe mound. And then press your sit bones back and lengthen your chest out towards your toes. So there's a soft rounding in your back. You're not forcing flat back, but think about lengthening the base of the fold, not the top of the fold. So we always want to lengthen the torso, and that's fine, but we want to take that really into the bottom of the base here. So from sit bone to heels, lengthening out. Inhale, then come back up using your back muscles. And then come over to your hands and knees, tabletop pose. Come back to the center of your mat. And take your arms down on the floor for headstand, Shirshasana, dolphin pose if you are not balancing on your head. So dolphin is down dog on your elbows. Shirshasana 1, supported headstand, elbows on the floor, hands behind your head, feet up. Squeeze thighs, squeeze glutes. Use a wall if you need. If you're in downward facing dog on your elbows, you could play with lifting one leg at a time and just balancing on one foot and elbows. In headstand, feel the balance of the weight, balance of the foundation on your arms, the elbows to your wrists. So feel the weight equally supported from wrist to elbows. And then even your head, you're pushing your head into the floor using your neck muscles. Press down into your elbows from your shoulders so you can feel the upper back expand and open. And then notice if you're not using your leg muscles, just engage those glutes and thighs enough to be aware of them, not so much that it fatigues your body and knocks you over. And just like that forward fold, pressing up through your toes, pressing up through the balls of your feet. When your legs are active, it's easier then to come out of it slower, so the legs are strong as you lower down, and then knees to the floor. Child's pose, Balasana. Close your eyes down here and just focus on your forehead, resting on the floor, calming your mind. All right, come back up through table so that we can come back into reclining position. And you can lie back and set up for shoulder stand, Salam Sarvangasana, so supported shoulder stand. Then you lie down, take your legs up, hands to your back, elbows on the floor behind your shoulders, in line with your shoulders if you can. So try not to let your elbows flare out wider than your shoulder base. Walk your hands up as high as you can, and then take your feet up over your wrists, over your fingers. So toes and fingers line up eventually. Same thing here as headstand. You're pressing into your elbows and your shoulders, getting that weight off your neck. And opening the front chest now, opening the front of the shoulder girdle. Keep your gaze steady to your belly or to your thighs, maybe even to your toes. And then slowly lower your legs overhead for Halasana plow pose. Hands come behind your back, interlace your fingers, let your toes rest on the floor. If your toes don't quite hit the floor, you could put a block under your feet, or you could keep your hands on your back for extra support. Use your abdominals here to maintain the reclining shape of a forward bend so it doesn't turn into a collapsed plow. You've got strong legs, strong shoulders, strong core, but a still fluid breath. Okay, roll up out of that and come up to seated. We're going to set up for a twist. So for the first twist, you're going to bend your right knee and take your right foot to the floor up in front of your right sit bone. Hook your left arm over the outside of your right knee and the right hand comes behind. If you can bind, you can bind, but you're going to look forward over your left toes for this bind, for this stretch or the twist. It's Marichyasana variation. It's the pose dedicated to the sage Marichya, and it is Marichyasana C. And keep squeezing your right knee over left ribs to the right side of the room and keep your gaze forward. Inhale, release the twist. And then the second side, you're going to take your left foot to the floor up in front of your left sit bone. Your left hip's probably going to lift off the floor for preparation. You eventually do want to roll back to your left sit bone. If you can bind, you're going to reach back around with your left hand and bind the right. Press out through your right foot. Your right hand is binding. The right arm is binding, so the right hand's going to grab the left hand. And then look over your right shoulder, look over your right toes. And if you're not binding, just use your right arm to hook the left knee and your left hand on the floor for balance. But keep opening the throat and chest area. Okay, come out of that on your inhale. All right, Ardha Matsyendrasana, half Lord of the Fishes. You can either sit on your left heel for balance, challenge, or you can come to the floor and sit inside of your left heel. It wraps around your right hip. Your right foot has hooked the left knee, and you're again gonna twist, hook your left arm, and you could bind if you'd like. You can keep your right hand on the floor here if you like. I'm keeping it for balance. Balance is challenging in this one. The key to balancing if you're sitting on your foot is to flex your ankle, which I was not doing. For some reason, I just forgot that that's what I was supposed to do. It happens. All right, let's switch sides. Ardha Matsyendrasana, side 2. So you can see here, you can have your heel on the outside of your foot, or you can sit. I'm sorry, your heel on the outside of your hip, or you can sit on it. Right arm's going to hug the left thigh, left hand behind, and here you can just use your hands on the floor for balance. This twist, you are kind of looking out over your left shoulder. So play with it if you want to sit on the foot or take the foot out beside. Again, if you are sitting on your heel, you're flexing the bottom foot. And that will definitely help with balance. All right, inhale to untwist and then lie down, coming onto your back. Take rest. That's it. So it's just a very straightforward practice moving from pose to pose, and it may seem to go pretty fast for you, so please feel free to break this down at your own pace. Of course, you know that you have control over these videos, but just noticing the beautiful meditative benefit of a practice like this, not moving fast from pose to pose, just staying in a pose long enough to feel it, and then move on so that you're not overworking it or over-attaching to it or expecting too much from it. Approaching this kind of a practice with a contemplative mindset and also no expectations from your body from these poses. You're just moving in and out of poses. That's it. They don't need to be perfect. They don't need to be aligned perfectly. You're just being. You're just doing and practicing. All right, yogis, as always, when you do end your practice, tell yourself good job and thank you.